Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. JTP, John, the producer, currently taking hold of things as we get started here on a Thursday. Welcome aboard as always. Thanks for sticking around, being patient with us as we get started a little later than normal today. Alec, Lasley getting started with me as we get things going on a Thursday. How are you doing today, Alec?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing good. Got tons of Indiana transfer portal stuff to talk about as we get things started today. Obviously, yesterday we had the announcement of Tamar Bates, or that was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, Tamar Bates announces he's going to get into the transfer portal. Yesterday, we have Peyton Sparks announce that he's going to be transferring to Indiana from Ball State. Later on in the afternoon, we get word that Jordan Geronimo is going to be entering the transfer portal. And I believe that's been confirmed as of where we are right now. Correct, Alec?
Yeah, that's kind of the latest. It was, obviously it's been a busy offseason already when the offseason really hasn't, officially kind of kicked itself into gear. But yeah, for Indiana, I would say kind of the busiest couple of days has been kind of since Monday when it pertains to transfers out, when it pertains to obviously last weekend going out doing some in-home visits, and then obviously getting engaged in starting to get some conversations going with some additional transfers who are in the portal now. So it's been a busy couple days for Indiana. Expect that to keep going. But as of last night, we have hit the first official dead period. So no on-campus visits for the next few days as we kind of get ourselves into the Final Four. Then there'll be a little this week, and then another kind of 3 or 4 day dead period next week and going into the following week. So it'll be a quote unquote little bit of a slower time just because college kids can't get on college campuses, but there'll still be some recruiting going on and obviously some new names that'll pop up and conversations and everything like that.
Let's start with all three guys that Indiana has transferring out: Logan Duncombe, Tamar Bates, and Jordan Geronimo. Any surprises there, or do you feel like those were kind of inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at Tamar Bates as the one kind of quote unquote, shocker, right? I still think when it comes down to it, there were no, clear shocks out of all three of those. I think a lot of people were obviously expecting Logan Duncombe, which is the one who hit the transfer portal first. I think a lot of people were also expecting Jordan Geronimo to go into the transfer portal as well. And then when you look at the rest of that roster, right, theoretically, you moving into this new kind of college basketball, they're always probably going to have right around 3 guys that leave your program, that enter the transfer portal. If you have less than that means you're doing something right at this point. And, there's bigger opportunities to stay where you are. But I think you look at the way that Tamar Bates ended last season, the struggles that he had in the second half of the year, really not being a factor at all on either end of the floor. And, Indiana needs consistency moving into next year, especially with a lot of open minutes, a lot of responsibility now that guys are going to have to take on, a lot of new faces. And if they are not going to get that with, a Jordan Geronimo and a Tamar Bates, then you need to, not push them out, but you need to have some really hard conversations with them and tell them, hey, we're expecting X. And if there's anything less than that, you probably should look elsewhere. Right. And I think it was more of a, mutual departure, both and Tamar Bates than anything else. But, we know all the things going on in Tamar's personal life. Obviously, being a dad impacts kind of where you want to be. And so I think that weighed a lot on his shoulders and with this decision. But I don't think it was one that he wanted to make, but I think it was one that he kind of needed to make just for the for the overall landscape of him personally, and then the professional lifestyle that he wanted after college.
And one other Indiana player that a lot of fans are really keeping an eye on, not necessarily for the transfer portal, but for a potential NBA draft decision, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Obviously, that we haven't had any word on that yet. Where do you think? Where do you feel like Jalen Hood-Schifino is leaning toward right now, or do you think that decision may come later on in this process?
Yeah, I mean, going into the year, right? A lot of people expected him most likely, be a 2-year player and then go off to the NBA. I don't think a lot of people expected one, obviously, no one really expected the Xavier Johnson injury to occur and be season-ending for him at the time. That obviously gave Jalen Hood-Schifino a lot more responsibility on both ends of the floor, but also gave him the ability to grow a lot quicker and faster than what people expected. As we're sitting here right now, there's still some time to go in this potential decision, but it seems he's going to be at least at the bare minimum, right, putting his name in the draft and going through that process. There would be no reason not to. I find it hard to believe that he would come back. He showed and flashed the potential that he has, and I think for both parties, it would be better if he does end up going to the NBA. And then Indiana has that ability to kind of preach that one and done motto to all these big 5- and 4-star recruits that they're trying to get in on campus and get committed here over the next few years. And they're going after heavy hitters in the transfer portal as well. And if you're able to bring that sort of developmental conversation to the table and say, hey, if you only have 12 months to get to where you want to be, what better place to do that, and what better person to show you than not only Jalen Hood-Schifino, but also Trace Jackson-Davis and the development that he had, over the last 12 months.
Yeah, he's definitely the first real, true example Mike Woodson has whenever he's talking to future high schoolers, or I guess future Indiana guys about coming into the program that are currently high schoolers. But I'm going to move forward into Indiana's latest commit, Peyton Sparks out of Ball State. He'll have 2 years of eligibility left, correct?
Yep. Yeah, be here for 2 years.
So what do you believe to be his role going into next season? Obviously, we don't really know what the entirety of the roster will look like next year, but a lot of good production in his first 2 seasons with Ball State. Had a decent year overall. The Cardinals did in the MAC. So do you see him as a major contributor, or do you see him as somebody who may be backing up a Malik Renew next season?
Yeah, I think you look at his role as someone who's going to come off the bench and be very productive in those minutes, but not be a starter, right? I mean, if you look at the production that he had, which was great and phenomenal, right? Almost 14-8 over his first 2 seasons. Also, a freak when drawing fouls, was one of the best in the entire country, not just in his conference or at that level of basketball, but in the entire country in foul rate. So you have the ability to bring in someone off of the bench who's physical, has a terrific frame, 6'9", 240, right? He's ready to compete down on the block. But you need bigger minutes to fill in the front court. And this was more of a depth piece, and a guy that is going to play his role quite well. Been consistent with that in his first 2 seasons. But a guy who just absolutely loved Indiana. Coming out of high school, he loved IU, has been a lifelong IU fan. So this was a big moment for him, and it was one that he would be hard pressed to turn down, especially with the interest from Indiana being very mutual. But this is not one where, if he's playing 25 to 30 minutes a game, that means that either there's a significant injury that's going to cause him to do that, or Indiana missed on a lot of those other big man portal targets that they're going after. And so this was a great way to at least get that depth piece early on, right? As we haven't even turned the calendar into April, and how many high major Power 5 programs are sitting with at least one transfer commit at the moment. And there's not many outside of probably Carolina and then Indiana are the 2 that I can think of just off the top of my head. So it's a significant step to get that so early on, because now you can go after some of those kind of bigger names and top tier guys that you really need to come in and play 25 plus minutes right away.
Yeah, one guy that I really had my eye on when I was looking through guys in the transfer portal and specifically thinking about replacing the production of Trace Jackson Davis, which first of all, you can't really truly replace the production. You can have somebody who can at least mimic his physicality and athletic ability, that kind of stuff. And the name that I always kept my eye on was John Hughley. Do you have any thoughts on the guy out of Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that's most likely not going to happen. I don't think Indiana's going to go.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and when you look at what Indiana's trying to get to, they're trying to get more versatile, more athletic in the front court. Not to say that he's not, but he's much more of a banger in the post and on the block. And if you're trying to pair someone with Malik Renew, who is the expected starting four at this moment, and probably will be going into next year regardless, you need to pair someone by his side who's going to at least bring the ability to stretch the floor, but also be that athletic and rim protector that you need. And that's why, when you look at kind of the forwards and the centers out there, the first name that kind of pops up is Caden Shedrick from Virginia. They had a Zoom meeting last night with the Indiana staff. It went very well. They're in the process of kind of setting up and talking visit dates. Obviously, like I said, with the period coming up here, it probably won't be for an extra week and a half, but that's the name that you really focus on when you're looking at a starting center to pair with the rest of this roster as it's currently constructed. Has the ability to at least stretch the floor a little bit. That's something that he was not able to do at Virginia, just not their style of play. But a very good shooter in general. Didn't get the opportunities to do so. And a terrific rim protector. And that's one major aspect of this Indiana.
Hey, go ahead. I didn't realize you were still going.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that's one thing that Indiana really needs to. Part of this, terrific defense that Indiana's had over the past 2 seasons has also been constructed around the shot blocking ability of Trace Jackson Davis. We've seen the inability of these perimeter players for Indiana to guard out on the wing and stop those straight line drives from perimeter players. But it looks a lot better when you have a shot blocker like Trace Jackson Davis. And if you don't have that in the back end of the defense, I'm a little bit concerned and weary of what exactly the defense is going to look like now moving to kind of this new era. So he crosses off a lot of those boxes that Indiana would need as a starting center, especially paired both offensively and defensively around Malik Renew.
One other guy I want to mention in the transfer portal that a lot of people have talked about in our comment section this week, and Jim's even brought him up a few times before we get to break, Jamison Battle from Minnesota. Do you see him as somebody who would fit Indiana's system, or what are your kind of thoughts on him?
Yeah, did not have the most efficient year last year. I shot about 32% from three, still took about 6-7 threes a game. He's a shooter, and you go back to his entire career, still about a 36% shooter for his career. Minnesota did not have the players around him to take off some of that offensive scoring pressure that he needed to have. But pair him with some of the playmakers Indiana should have, right? Especially what I think will be an all Big Ten point guard in Xavier Johnson, with the assumption that he gets that hardship waiver. You bring him in as someone who can space the floor, as a 6'7", 6'8" wing, who can also play a little bit of that small ball four. But he's also very physical, just a smart player, and a guy who has been around for a long time. And that's what Indiana needs to kind of bridge this gap and keep this momentum going from the past 2 seasons, to build on that. And he's a guy that I think Indiana fans would welcome, and should, with his shooting ability, and more so just his ability to take shots, right? Indiana has struggled just to shoot open threes, even if they're not open, just contested threes. There's a reason they rank in the 350s, 340s for attempted threes in the past 2 seasons, because they don't have the guys who have the confidence to take those shots, and they need someone who's going to come in and really not have much of a thought about it, in order to spread this offense out and make it go. And he's one of those guys that I think Indiana should continue to go after and likely will at this point, coming off of their in-home visit with him earlier this week.
We got to take a quick break. Jim Coyle, as you can see on YouTube, is here with us. We're at our first stop. We'll be right back. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington, and Endeavor Hospitality Group right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I can't believe you started all the fun without me.
I know, we did. We literally just went through all of recruiting right there. Like, I mean, you could probably mention a couple more names if you wanted to, but I was going to get into Final Four stuff next if you just want to take over from there.
How's the recruiting going?
It's good. There's a lot of fires brewing at the moment. We'll see which of them continue to burn, but they're doing what they can.
Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty busy. You got 7 total new faces, 2 of which were already picked,
Yeah,
and 1 is now. So still got 4 more new faces that they got to pick. I think I put out a tweet the other day that said, regardless, at a minimum, 3 of Indiana's starters for next season are not even on the roster yet. Where are you?
Yeah. Back in Indy doing some wedding stuff this weekend.
I thought you already had your wedding.
Nope, in June.
Oh.
Slowly but surely coming up.
How long is the engagement, I guess, then at that point?
Just a little over a year and a couple months.
Ours was pretty long. Mine was like 18 months.
Is it going to be in? Is it going to be in Indy?
Yeah, it's going to be in Indy. In Fishers.
Oh,
Mitchell Page got married this past weekend.
I know. I just heard that yesterday. I forgot. We have to call him and wonder why he did. Why we weren't able to just cover that live.
Live from the Page wedding.
Wouldn't that be? I mean, I'm talking some real wedding crashers crap here, there, baby. That. Oh yeah, I'm sure his wife would love that.
Uh-huh.
Hey, give me 2 seconds. My connection's a little in and out. I'm just gonna sign off and sign back in. I'll be right back.
Okay, that's fine.
Don't worry.
All right, we're back in about 30 seconds. Excuse me. And even though, so I started at 8:50, I'm still just going to take us to 10:30, and I'm going to add an extra segment at the very end to tag on to the radio side. You know what I mean?
Oh, you didn't start until 8:50.
Yeah, because I didn't have Dustin with me. All right, here we go.
Service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, March 29th. Appreciate John Boyd getting you started. Alec Lasley's back with us. Congratulations again on the upcoming nuptials. Alec getting married in June. Mitchell Page married this last weekend. Down that one got. He probably did it on the beach with his feet in the water. I mean, I would not be surprised at all. Yours is in June. That's in Indianapolis. So what are you going to get? Are you going to like do it on the banks of the White River?
No, so we're actually doing it outside on a lake out in Fishers.
I was close.
Yeah,
My
you're
God.
in.
So you are going to be, yes.
You
Oh,
weren't
you
too
are
bad
going to
too
have
out
your
there.
feet in the water.
Yeah, it's slightly we will, yes.
Oh my
So we're
God.
hoping it doesn't. The one variable is obviously the rain. So we're fingers crossed and knocking
My
on wood for the
God.
next few months.
You just gave me an opportunity to do my Howard Schnellenberger. Alec Lasley is, let's see. Alec Lasley is on a collision course with marriage. The only variable is rain. It's too long. It's too long ago for that. That was one of those great quotes that just probably didn't catch on outside of covering him, but he was a character. But forget all that stuff. This weekend, I know you guys talked about the recruiting, which is nonstop. The guys out there are busy. They've plugged a couple holes already. How likely is it they get everybody that they want, or that they need, I should say, Alec?
Yeah, I mean,
because they have because they have to.
Yeah,
for it to work.
And that's if you're going to look at any good to come out of losing in the second round of the tournament, right? You get your recruiting started way sooner than a lot of these other programs, and that's why when you look around the country right now, I know I'm wrong on this, but when you look at the Power 5 programs, I don't know of many outside of Indiana and Alabama got a transfer the other day, and then North Carolina, who have landed commits out of the transfer portal at this moment. Right? It's so early in the process that if you're able to plug in a transfer at this point in the offseason that hasn't even truly officially gotten going yet, you're way ahead of the game. And Indiana was obviously able to do that with Peyton Sparks as that reserve forward. Now they have a lot of fire still going between Chris Ledlum, between Nick Timberlake, between Caden Shedrick, Jamison Battle, right? Just some of the guys who they've been involved with for the past couple of weeks that are pretty much at the top of their tier when they're looking at their hot board. But those are the guys that you should be focusing on at the moment. And Caden Shedrick, Jamison Battle, and I would say Chris Ledlum are kind of the three out of those four that I would continue to follow. Nick Timberlake had an in-home visit with Indiana last weekend, has not been able to set up a true on-campus visit. Was on campus at North Carolina this week, so we'll see what happens with that. It seems like Carolina may have the inside track on landing a commitment there. But Indiana is doing everything they need to do at the moment. But like you said, they have a lot of openings, they have a lot of minutes, they have a lot of spots that they need to fill, and they're making sure that they go out and they recruit now 2 or 3 players at each position, because you're not going to land 1A and 1B that you want in this cycle. There's just too many openings around the country. There's too many guys that a lot of high major and really, really good programs want. So you need to make sure that you have depth in that recruitment and make sure that you have numerous guys that you feel comfortable with, that if you miss on 1 or 2, you still land some of the guys who are going to help you and compete immediately and come in and play major minutes immediately. And that's what Indiana needs. And that's what a lot of programs don't have right at the moment. Is theoretically, you could see an entirely new starting 5, right? If they land a guy on the wing, if they land a couple perimeter players who show up in the summer, right? There's no sure thing that Trey Galloway is back in the starting lineup. He's still going to play significant minutes, but you could be looking at an entirely new starting 5 than what they finished with in the NCAA tournament, which is insane. But it's just the way that this college basketball sport is going now, where every single year you can have half of your roster turnover and it wouldn't be a surprise for anyone. So they need to continue to put a lot of pressure on some of these guys to at least get one or two more of these 1A, 1B that they truly need and go from there.
Yeah, it's funny in the start, kind of in the beginning of what you started to say, all was built around depth. And the note that I wrote to myself to continue the conversation was team depth next season has to be at the level that we thought it was this season, because they did not have that depth, and you have to have it. Not only that, I sent out a tweet the other day as well that said, realistically, 3 of Indiana's starters for next season are not even on the roster yet. And it's kind of weird when you sit back and think about it, but it is and was and could be true, and it could be more. And that's expecting Xavier to be back. But that's mainly because they've got a lot of open positions, number one. But you have to have, you just have to be better. And if you're not, then we saw what happened when you have the same thing, same old. So I think that it's hard to say that Mike Woodson learned, but because a lot of these players are still players that were already there. So getting, and not all of them, but it's getting into his recruits now. But that's nowadays, Alec, that's a 1 or 2 year turnaround. It's like a 1 or 2 year deal. And this is his second year. So he kind of has to, there's pressure on him, on Mike Woodson, to hit all of these. All of these need to be done right. There's not a lot of room for missteps.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see them so, not to say that they wouldn't have been this active, but they probably would have been slightly more selective in who they go after at this current part of the off season. But when you lose first team All-American, when you most likely are going to lose the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and that doesn't include 2 other starters, that doesn't include 3 guys who are now in the transfer portal, right? That's a lot of shifting and maneuvering that you have to do to put together a competitive roster. And you need to build off of the momentum that was set in Mike Woodson's first year, right? Getting back to the NCAA tournament. You won a game this past year. Now you need to build on that. And it's difficult to think about having a better team and going further and advancing deeper into the NCAA tournament when you think about what you are now going to lose with this roster. But that's the pressure that's now on Mike Woodson to do that, because they can't take a step back at this point. The amount of players that they're involved with in the class of 24, the class of 25, right? They need to bridge this gap. And that's the good thing with the transfer portal and the fact that so many guys are still at least interested in Indiana at the moment. And Mike Woodson is having multiple conversations with a lot of these guys, trying to get them on visit, going out to in-home visits. But we were talking about this earlier. I mean, he has a perfect pitch for development at this point. You look at what he did with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. And, a lot of people, and including myself, didn't know how much better Trace Jackson Davis was going to get from last year up until this year, right? And we saw a totally different player, and a lot of that is due to the coaching staff putting him in situations that will make his game evolve and put more pressure on defenses than it already was, and he became a true all-around player. And the development that now you can show a lot of these guys who are trying to get to the NBA, trying to get to the next level, whatever that may be, you now have 2 perfect case studies for freshmen and for guards, and then for maybe upperclassmen, big guys, right? Here's what we did with two good players, and we made them even better than what I think a lot of people expected them to be. So you have a great pitch for anyone looking to play 1 year. And I'll say that with a little bit of hesitancy, because you can't build a program each and every year to compete at the top and make Sweet 16s every single year by getting numerous transfers and numerous freshmen. You have to have guys to be there 2, 3, 4 years and fill in the gaps after that. But you can't have 6, 7, 8, 9 new faces every single year and continue to build a productive program. And that's what Mike Woodson has to land in this portal, is guys who are going to be there for 2 years, which you already have in Peyton Sparks. There's a couple other guys that you're looking at who at least have 2 years of eligibility, and surround those with a couple one and done players through the portal, and eventually get that way with a couple potential 2024 and 2025 five stars who have the potential to be one and dones. And that's how you bridge that gap. And that's the complex situation that Mike Woodson's in right now.
Yeah, it has become it's a game of chess in essence, of picking the right pieces, because look at the teams that are in the Final Four right now. They all have transfers on it of one sort or another way, and it doesn't matter if it's in Miami. It's so funny, and I've said this a lot. Miami, everybody thinks, oh man, Miami. Well, they have 1, maybe 2 transfers on that team.
Yep.
So they seem like big when they're not really. They just have guys making a lot of money on NIL is all. But the thing is, I'll tell you about that Miami team. They play hard, and that's the thing you have to do in the NCAA tournament, is play hard. And so I don't care if those guys are getting paid NIL money or not. They're playing hard. And so that's something that you have to have. And Indiana was it was a weird team this year. Play well, not play well, puff your chest out. And I think we saw that in the NCAA tournament, Alec, when the game that they lost in, it was like, what the hell was that? So it's a different mentality that he's got to bring in as well. And that's hard to do when you're thinking about guys that are, instead of the 3 and the 4 year guys now, you have to think about the 1 and the 2 year guys. That's kind of what it is. And you have to also take the mentality that you were able to build in a guy or an athlete over a longer period. Now you have to squeeze that down and, get the love for Indiana, the love for playing at Indiana or wherever it is. So, but we're talking about Indiana. So they've got, and the rivalry and all that stuff. So you've got all that stuff has to be compacted for these guys now. It's a different sell.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ego in the transfer portal, from guys who don't deserve to have a big ego to guys who
hey
know
man,
that...
I'm right here. I'm right here, dude.
Yep. And so when you look at a lot of guys who are trying to come in and think the grass is always greener, right? It's very difficult to get everyone to mesh and mesh the way that they need to mesh in order to make a deep run in March and get to where we are at this weekend in the Final Four. And that's why when you look at Indiana for next season, it's so imperative and so critical that they get Xavier Johnson back, because if you don't, who's the leader on that team? You've lost every upperclassman. You now have theoretically just one player returning who played really significant minutes in Trey Galloway. And again, I am the biggest fan and proponent of Trey Galloway and what he brings to this program and this team every single year. But he is not the leader for this team. You need to have Xavier Johnson back in order to get these guys to come in and mesh, because we both know the way that Xavier Johnson's season ended this year, he's going to come in, assuming he gets his hardship waiver, he's going to come in with a fire lit under him, under everyone who's returns and all these new guys, because he didn't get to experience the NCAA tournament this year. He barely got to experience it last year. And he's expecting to come in and play some major minutes, play a major significant role, and be one of the best point guards in the Big Ten, if not, around the country with the experience and the skill set that he has. So they need him to come back in order to bridge that gap and make sure these guys buy in, because like we both said, and everyone knows, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of new players, a lot of new personnel and skill set that's going to be on this roster next year, and a much different style of play than what Indiana's been used to over the last 4 seasons, with Trace Jackson Davis as that centerpiece and that main point of both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively.
And I just realized Xavier is not going to have really any one of he's got Trey Galloway there that he's played with, but it's really going to be completely devoid. I mean, the funny thing is he's a transfer and he's going to be the leader of this team. I mean, he's going to be the veteran leader of this team, which is just ironic all in itself in a bunch of different ways. But yeah, you're right. There's that going on as well. So just a lot of interesting stuff, plus the tournament going on. Dusty May, look what he did. It's just a lot of fun stuff. I think you have meetings now, right? Dang.
Yep, at 9:30. Yep.
Love to have had this go on a little longer, but I know we have to take a break and get you out here. We're going to do that. Big thanks to Alec for stepping in today. And we've got lots more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal. Oh man,
Jim,
I wish
whenever you want me on, just give me a day's notice, right? If you want to stick to Fridays, we can do that. If you need me every day, just give me a day's notice, and I can try to move some things around. But always open to that.
Perfect. Did y'all talk about HI?
Not
instead of
not
TH,
really.
HI?
Just slightly right when I came on with John, but nothing more than that. I said nothing more than just when John asked me.
Sorry, I missed it.
Cool. No worries.
Oh yeah, I was like, what the hell
cool.
is HI? But no, I know what you're talking about.
I'll let you
Cool.
go. But we'll talk. We'll talk. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm sure I've got tons. Like I said, always gonna have tons of stuff. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Cool, guys. Have a good one.
You too. What did you say, John?
I didn't realize what you were saying. We talked about it off air, just to clarify. We didn't talk about it at the beginning of the segment.
Okay, that's what I was just curious. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Let's see. So we're missing a segment in essence.
Yeah, but don't worry about it. I've already got that taken care of. I'm already downloading an older Dusty May segment that I can just insert in for radio, and we'll be fine.
That's actually perfect.
Exactly, isn't it?
And that wouldn't be a bad one to send out either. I mean,
excuse me.
Mark it and say, hey, this was from so and so. I mean, I plan on I expect to get him on next week afterwards.
Yeah.
After they win the damn thing, baby. Wouldn't that be something?
It would be something.
It would be something, all right. That sounds like a Seinfeld thing. Oh, it's something, all right. It's something. You're a real something, you.
How much time we got? This will be open, and then Chris at 9:50. 30 seconds.
Located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. I cannot believe this week is flying, man. March 29th. It's the last Thursday of the month. Does that mean April showers are coming, man? I guess. We've had some showers. I want to give a shout out to the Indiana softball program. Shonda has done a hell of a job over there. They just swept Purdue to tie the program's longest ever win streak. What is it up to now then? 18 games. Wow. That's a lot. I don't care what sport you're talking about. It doesn't matter what level, but that's not quite true. But this is, you're talking about in Division I college. It doesn't really matter what sport you're talking about. 18 times in a row win? Are you kidding me? That's a lot of different teams, a lot of different scenarios. The last game they beat Purdue 5-3, so it's not like every game's a blowout. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. That's a program that's been elevated. We'll see with the baseball team if they can keep up with it. They've got a streak going of their own, a home winning streak that continued, I believe, yesterday. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, because they won, or Tuesday, they won. So that's a 16-game home winning streak that they have going. So that's their combined. Gee whiz, 34 game winning streaks. Pretty daggone cool. How about the face of the Indiana basketball team changing as I told you it was going to. And of course, it's not like I'm the only person that thought that. I don't think a lot of fans thought that it was going to go as deep as it was going to go with 7 new faces, and that's what you're going to be seeing. Now, we're yet to hear that 7th person officially make it official, and that would be Jalen Hood-Schifino and him declaring for the draft, which he smartly has not done yet. Not that it matters. You can always pull back out, but as Jennifer does with her calendar on here and taking the Post-its and putting over the faces, if you had one of those Indiana calendars from last year and you did like she does, and you take a Post-it and you put it all over all the faces that are gone, and this is if you don't include the walk-ons. It's a lot of Post-it notes up there. Think about You've got 13 scholarship players. 13. 7 of them will be new faces next season. 7. Over half of your team. Not only is over half of your team new, half of your, almost the bulk of your team's production has to come inside of those numbers. It's not already in Bloomington. It's not already on your bench. You've got Xavier and you've got Trey Galloway. But neither of those had ever been consistent scorers. Galloway's still not. I don't know what the hesitancy comes from, but it's there. Does that change now that Trace Jackson Davis is not here? Does that change everything for everybody on the floor? Probably. But doesn't matter. You're going to have a lot of different faces doing a lot of different things. They have to find somebody to shoot the ball. That not doing it is over. You saw the NCAA tournament. The numbers are there. Indiana, you can't put up those few numbers. You have to shoot the ball and it's got to go in. So, but who fills those places? They're out making a run. There's a great piece. Trying to see where this. That was at the regional, so I wouldn't have seen him. But when we were in Albany and Indiana and Miami were playing, I was wondering if John Ruiz was in attendance. He is the man that bankrolled Miami's success. But again, I hate making a big deal of it just because one of the guys was already there that's making the money. So there's a piece in The Athletic today. It says John Ruiz he's got 12 tickets for Saturday night's Final Four showdown between Miami and Connecticut. But he has no clue where he's sitting or who is going with him. He said in the piece, right now, I don't even know who's going to be able to make it because the championship is Monday and a lot of people have to work. Ruiz, who is flying in on his private Boeing 767. What? Well, he's worried about who can go with him because a lot of people have to work as he's coming in on his private Boeing 767. I'm pretty sure that whoever you would ask probably knows the boss on wherever it is that they quote unquote work. How much credit? I mean, I think he does deserve a lot of credit because he didn't do a ton, but he did just enough. And earlier when Alec was talking about, or I sent out a tweet the other day that in Indiana, I know what it was. Chronic Hoosier sent out a tweet that he was looking for some dudes. He wants some dudes to come in and play for Indiana. And I retweeted it saying, Indiana needs quote unquote dudes that will do whatever it takes, that knows that it takes what it takes to play to win. And more importantly, is willing and wants to do the things it takes to win. That's the difference. Indiana did not have that. I know that there's a lot of love for the team, and that's great. And I'm not saying there shouldn't have been, but there was just a lot of, I think there was too much adulation soaked in by some of the players at times, and not enough gym rats. Not enough guys that just know what it takes and are willing to do what it takes. They haven't had that, and that's what they're going to have. And that's what's going to have to come in these 7 new faces. Now, 2 of those are already, 3 of them are filled. 2 of them were already filled as incoming freshmen with Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps, who look to be great players in their own right. You don't want to put that much pressure on those guys unless there's someone that can handle it. Jalen Hood-Schifino. And he still had to go through a quick learning curve, but he can handle the pressure, obviously. He started all season. He's most likely going to be in the NBA next year. Gabe Cupps. You don't want to be in a position like Purdue was. Man, you don't want to be relying on freshman guards. And they won't have to be with Xavier there. And Gabe Cupps could and will most likely be a solid backup. From all in I can see, he plays really well. He likes to play at a high level, and that is only continued. And I think that will continue to blossom once he gets to IU. So I think they'll be solid there. They need scorers. They need guys that can score from the wing. They need guys that can shoot. I mean, they need guys that can shoot, that will shoot, that are looking to shoot. Now, how does the offense change next year? That's all predicated on the players that are brought in. But we know what they need to have. It's just filling those spots. They've started to do that. Peyton Sparks. I hate just that free throw thing with him just sticks out. Robert asking, would we be the fans be wise to approach the coming season with caution after the hype for this season? You would always be wise to approach the coming season with caution. Look what happened in football 2 years ago. Things change, and nothing changes at such a hyper speed pace now than at that of college basketball. That's why I've said this 1,000 times here in the last month. This tournament has taught me that next year, favorite, smavorite, Big Ten favorite, whatever that means. Nobody's going to know nothing. That was purposefully incorrect English spoken. No one will know anything about these teams until deep into this season, next season. Look at who was good in the tournament versus all through the season. Still what everybody thought. We all thought it was going to be Arizona and Kansas. You know that there's going to be upsets, but not like this. And this is kind of a wake-up call, I think, to people. It shows you how quickly things can change, how quickly teams can change. And that's fast. Lasley thinks that Peyton Sparks is going to be a great culture guy. You know what? I don't know a ton about him, but the way he plays, I would agree with that just by watching him play or the highlights. That the energy he plays with, man, love it. Again, the dude keeps reminding me of Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant was a little bit bigger, but I mean, they're very, very similar. I mean, this guy's all right. Put it in perspective. Same size as Trace Jackson Davis, but they are extraordinarily different type players. I'm not saying this guy's going to put up those kinds of numbers, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for him to put up good numbers. But there are other things that were missing from that Indiana has to plug, holes that Indiana has to fill. So, yeah, but yes, caution, of course. You don't know what's going to happen. You never do. Sean says his fear of the portal activity is becoming Illinois 2.0, just a disaster of personalities trying to mesh all season. Well, but then you look at Kansas State. They had 10 new faces. 10. Illinois or Northwestern. Look at the players they lost. Speaking of loss, Kansas State lost Nigel Pack. They had a pretty daggone good year. So it's crazy. It's time to take a break. I know that. Before John Boy slaps my hand. Chris Denari's up next. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Hey, we're brought to you by Barber Pop. Don't forget. And we're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
Got about 1 minute, Jim. All right, 30 seconds.
up. The Fresh Fork takes care of all the planning, shopping, and prepping and can even deliver them to your doorstep once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, March 29. Heading into April. Cannot believe it. That big old pill does not stop turning, does it? It certainly does not. Steven says it would be great to see Edie develop a mid-range game. He doesn't need a mid-range game. Why? Yeah. If I'm Zach Edey, I'm not worried about a damn mid-range game. I got news for you. I would just kill people. And by that, I mean, I would just try to destroy people. I'd make them climb up me like I was Godzilla or something, hanging off of me. Make them stop me. I would be in the weight room getting so strong that literally I would be unstoppable. He just has to work on his quickness. He doesn't need a mid-range shot. He's 7'4". Doesn't need a mid-range game. He needs a 7'4" game. He needs to be quicker. He needs quicker feet. A little more jumping ability, which I know it's hard to move all that mass around. What's Purdue going to be like next year? It's a good question. I mean, they should be good. If you have Zach Edey and their guards have grown a year, they should be good. Now Purdue should be, to me, is going to be the favorite in the Big Ten. How can they not be? You have the defending champion coming back, mostly intact, with the most important piece intact. Hell, they could go out in the portal and get better guards than they have right now. And I don't mean that as a slap to Braden Smith or Fletcher Lawyer. But that's a fact. Purdue's not going to do anything nationally because even though their guards will be a year older, they're still not elite. They're not going to be elite. You win with elite guard play. Who are the? I mean, look at Miami. Look where their production is coming from. That old style of basketball is just not the game anymore. Now, I'm not saying that with a really, really good 7'4" guy and 4 good guys around him, well, that's a winning success right there. But Purdue does not have the 4 good guys around him. I don't think Purdue was losing much, were they? Purdue. I think that Mason Gillis, when he done? Isn't he a senior by now?
Yeah, Mason Gillis was the only name that I was thinking of when you brought that question up a second ago, but I don't know exactly what his eligibility is like.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that quickly, but
I'm taking a look here too. Let's take it. Let's see here.
I know they were not.
No,
losing
he's
a lot.
only Mason Gillis was only a junior this season.
So need to get their roster pulled up, that the one that shows the years.
That's what I'm looking at.
Oh, well, what? Well, who was the senior? Who are they losing?
They may not be losing anybody. I'm trying to take a look and see who might be.
Because that they're going to be an interesting.
I mean, imagine if they lose nobody. I mean, that would be really wild.
Who's that? Who's he?
Purdue.
No. Who's nobody?
That's funny. This is like who's on first?
Yeah. What? Okay.
Oh, here we go. Michael says they lost Jenkins. I can't think of who Jenkins is.
You know why?
Is he a walk
Because
on?
Jenkins didn't matter.
That's what I figured, but I didn't know for sure.
David Jenkins, a 6'1" guard from Tacoma, Washington. So that's it. So they're losing one guy off of a Big Ten conference tournament and regular season conference or regular season championship team. That sounds incredible on paper. I mean, if you were a coach 10 years ago and you had a team that won the Big Ten regular season, it won the Big Ten tournament, and you've got everybody back except for a guy who didn't play, it didn't matter. You're doing cartwheels for two reasons. Number one, your summer's probably going to be a lot easier recruiting wise, and you should have a hell of a team. But how? And I'm not saying this to knock on Purdue. It's not really about. It doesn't matter that it's Purdue. This is about today's teams and today's basketball. How many people, after what happened to Purdue this year, are going to look at them and go, yeah, they're going to be tough to beat because they got a 7'4" guy. But that's kind of it.
It's like Steven says,
them. There's ways to beat them around it.
Everybody knows whether they can do it or not. The blueprint is out there on how to beat Purdue now.
Well, just like it was for Indiana last year, just like it was for Indiana when Archie was there. But yes, now having the blueprint does not mean it's always easy to follow, or yet that you can follow it, or that Zach Edey allows you to follow it. But it's just going to be interesting to see. The only reason I'm talking about it is because it's going to be interesting, again, to see what Purdue can do on the national stage versus the conference stage. I mean, how are they not the favorite to win the Big Ten?
I mean, when you
got all
return
your
everybody
pieces back.
virtually and you're
the Big Ten champion. You're the reigning Big Ten double champion, and you got everybody back. So there you go. I hereby christen the 2023 Big Ten basketball favorites, Purdue.
Which seems like a death sentence nowadays.
Well, but that's the facts, Jack.
It's the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah, that's just a fact. Who's Michael? Let's see. Somebody I must have been hating on Purdue. One of our commenters is a big Purdue fan, and I love it. I love that he brings the opposite side, man. Heck yeah. No, it's usually just a great comment, actually. There's always a side there's always like a side war going on there in those comment section. And I try to keep up to make sure that I catch some good ones, but there ends up being people getting into some good heavy conversations sometime. And then so I get lost. Jeff says the idea that Jalen Hood-Schifino should be a one and done for the betterment of him and IU is just ludicrous. I don't know who said that. Was that said by someone, or was that in a comment?
I don't know what I mean, that could have been from earlier, but I don't know what they're referring to.
Yeah. I mean, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, would IU be better off if he stayed another year? Well, of course they would. He's an NBA level player. Would he be better off? No. Let me say that again. Would Jalen Hood-Schifino be better off? No. I laugh so hard now, time and time again, when I see people, he needs another year. He's not ready. He's not right. He's not ready for the NBA. He needs to stay for another year and get his game up. He needs one more year. He needs Hey, people, stop. Do you know who determines if people need another year or not? The NBA and the experts. Not you, not me. The experts. Now, are they always right? No. Because a lot of times they draft on potential. And that is not always right. You really see that in the NFL. Quarterbacks, talk about a guessing game. You know, you look at all what they go through for those draft stuff. I mean, if there are some people out there that do know, but most of you don't know what all goes on behind looking at a person for a team to draft them in any professional sport. It's nuts. The interviews, the background checks, all this crazy, just which makes you really wonder sometimes how some people get signed or get contracts that they get in all of sports. That's a whole different subject. Boy, could we have a show on that one. And that would include coaches. So, and for any fans, IU fans that are still waiting for, hoping for Jalen Hood-Schifino to come back, that's not going to happen. It's just simply not going to happen. George Geronimo declared a little sooner than I thought. I thought he would wait until today to declare that he was leaving. I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been next week, but they were just kind of wanting it not to do it all at the same time. But yeah, they knew they had to get out there quickly because they were being recruited over, in essence. From a fan standpoint, and I already know the answer to this question. Now, your teams are going to go from being filled with guys that are 3 and 4 year guys. Now there's always been the early selections at Indiana. You've had guys, lots and lots of guys that have just been 1 or 2 years. You go back to Oladipo, they were here for 3 years, right? Yeah. Been nice if they'd had that 4th year. But so they managed. That's probably about as good as you can hope for as how it was back around 2013. because your superstars are generally going to be either freshmen, and if they're a superstar, they're only going to be at a place for 1 to 2 years, or they're going to be a junior that just exploded off of a sophomore campaign at a less successful school and is in the portal. Either way, the faces of your teams in the future are going to be, you're basically going to get two different. If you're a 4-year student at IU, you're going to average getting 2 different teams during the course of your college career. We got to take a quick break so John Boy doesn't get upset with me. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a
one more segment here.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. I have got to get that Roadcaster. I am going to plug that thing in here and I will have. Can you imagine me with all those things at my fingertips?
Yeah, it might ruin the show. You'd be using them so much. I'm just kidding.
No, I won't. I won't be able to do it too much because I imagine that's going to take some thinking. But I watch American Idol. Thank you very much. And I saw someone doing their audition using that.
Using what, a Roadcaster?
Yes, because you can add so much, you get this you can. It's I've got to get. How long has that been?
It was back in September, I think.
Oh no, it was longer than that. September of last year.
It was. I know, but it was towards the end of when we were in our old building, which was about September.
Oh, I thought it was. Was it even last year? It wasn't the year before.
No, it was less. It was like 6 months ago.
It seems like forever. You can stay in here, by the way.
Oh, I figured. I'll have my mic off unless you address me while I'm doing other stuff.
You're supposed to address the ball. Oh, ball.
All right, how much time we got? All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
New brews and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. I hope you're having a great week. The spring weather is sneaking in. What is temperature going to be today, out of curiosity, in central Indiana? I know we've got a lot of you guys are all over the place, but the majority of
I
you
think
are.
next week, and this may include central Indiana, we're going to hit the 70s a couple of times.
Well, that wouldn't shock. I mean, that's not going to shock me.
Well, it's just we haven't had it really frequently yet.
Well, it's because it's been wintertime, John.
While that is true, it has been spring for over a week now.
Has it really?
It's March 30th. March 20th
man, I don't
is
know.
the first day of spring.
Man, I don't know. That's out of my purview. I don't have time to look at that. I do know that you are correct, sir, in that it's actually today, and I think there's showers coming in tonight. So high of 65 on Friday. But then on Saturday, it's going to suck. 50 degrees. Windy. She colors me windy. A little, oh my gosh. I can't think of Californication. Who sings that? Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, you say Chili Peppers. You don't know, man, come on.
I came up with it.
Like that's just like
it took me a minute. It took me a minute to figure out.
What happens whenever you're
too much information going on in my ADHD brain. We will be hitting the 70s next Wednesday. It's not that far away. Not that far off. So I am so excited about that. As everyone else should be. But what am I going to do when basketball's over after Monday?
I know what you're going to do. You're going to go to the golf course.
I wish. The pool, the ISB radio fans pool, is at least it's coming down to a game between, who was that I read? I read it off the other day. UConn, if UConn wins, I think Taterology loses. And if UConn loses, he wins. I cannot remember the daggone name of the winner. I'll have to pull it up off of my text messages in a minute, but at least it's still coming down to the last game between two people, although no one has, I think, a chance at having the champion. But I would think, I mean, because this was a lot of it, there was going to be a lot of Indianas, a lot of Big Tens in there, which there were. No one has the majority of teams that are in it with good reason. What do you think about what John Ruiz did for Miami? Do you how well versed though were people? And I think people think it's bigger than it really was. He pumped a lot of money into it, I can tell you that, of his own money. He put in more. He's paid out more money personally than, to put this in perspective, than Hoosiers for Good has given out collectively. And that's not a slap on anybody. I'm just trying to put it in context for you. See if I can find the total number. I'm thinking it's been 10 million that he's put out already. I don't know if any school has paid out as much as he has. Now, I'm sure there are some because of football. And, you know, this doesn't even include what has he done for football. Oh, trust me, I know, Rusty. So go to the Athletic. They've got a piece where they talk to him. He's the son of Cuban immigrants. He attended Miami during Jimmy Johnson's football heydays right after Howard Schnellenberger made Miami what they were. He became a lawyer and was all I could think about as Miami was making these runs towards the Final Four this year. And one in which it worked on the men's side. I mean, they didn't add much. It's not like they brought in a bunch. They didn't Kansas State it. They didn't bring in 10 new faces. He didn't have, their starters aren't all bankrolled, but he brought in a key piece. And they already had the other guys. They're paying Wong more now because of that, but he was already there. So I can't, fault them a ton. Gee whiz. There was a lot of schools that did. Hell, he probably didn't do as much as certain schools that I won't mention did when it was not legal. So it's just new is all. They asked in this article, they ask him questions like, how often do you go to the games? Do you always sit behind the bench? Do you get to go into the locker rooms on the court afterwards? Blah, blah, blah. Do you get to go to the locker room, though, after the Elite Eight? I've never asked to go into the locker room. If they invited me, I'm sure I would go if they invited me. What are you kidding me? You're their banker if they invited me. When did you first meet Wong, Miller, Pack, and O'Meara? All right, that's a good question. I guess along the way, Wong and Miller were already on the team, so I extended an NIL deal. So I extended an NIL deal to them last year, and then after Norchad and Nigel had committed and enrolled, they got NIL deals as well. So, well, Nigel was getting his from him. So was Norchad O'Meara the other guy that they brought in? If so, that was a hell of a piece to bring in. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, they did buy their way, which I don't have a problem with it because everybody can do it. The key is, and it's the same. This is a perfect point for Indiana. They got the right pieces. They picked the right guys. They brought in the right ones. Look how hard Norchad O'Meara plays. He kicked the ever-living crap out of Indiana by himself.
He came from Arkansas State, by the way.
Arkansas State, the home of the only person that ever came out of Arkansas State, I think, was who played with Michael Jordan? Scottie Pippen.
Good question. Oh, there you go.
Scottie Pippen. Look up Scottie Pippen's college. See where he went to school. But these players, look where these players are at prior to this, too. Arkansas State or wherever. This is who recruited them.
Scottie Pippen went to Central Arkansas.
Central Arkansas. Okay. I was close. I get half a point. Half a point.
There you go.
But the point that I'm making is they didn't bring in a lot of guys, but they brought in the right guys. They brought in the right guys. Nigel Pack was available for Indiana twice. 2 times. The first time, they could have got him for free. So I think that Miami they made smart deals because they brought in the right pieces. Look how well Miami plays together. Got new faces there. Not only do you have new faces, you have new faces that are getting the bank. Jealousy? No. Why are you going to get jealous? Because they're making more money? Because they're making money? Why are they making more money? Why are they making money? Because they're better than you. Were they better than you before they were making money? Yep. Did everybody probably know they were better than you when they weren't making money? Yep. So there's no difference. The only difference is they're making money. So the jealousy thing on the team, not buying it unless it's between a couple of guys that are on the same level. Now that's a different story. That's kind of what happened with when Nigel Pack got his nice $800,000 allegedly $800,000 deal. Isaiah Wong, who was already at Miami, said, "Oh, hold on. I'm going to have to renegotiate." And he threatened to leave. And he got paid. As he should have, because he's kind of the head of the snake on that team. That asked him about, you tweeted how much the deal with Nigel, $800,000 over 2 years collectively. How much would you say Pack, Miller, Omir, and Wong cost in total? His answer: I can't disclose that because there's confidentiality agreements. But I would just say they're being fairly compensated. Okay, now here's where I have a problem, people. Why are these confidential? I don't. If they're on scholarship at public universities, at least, I don't think you should be able to have confidential agreements. A. B, I think they're going to have to come up with some kind of legislation that allows for contractual agreement. Why would you not allow that? You're allowing everything else except for that, which forces people ask all the time, how does that, if he leaves, what about it? If this person, NIL deals are done in a way because people had to learn quickly the hard way that in order for them to fulfill their obligations, you make it to where they have to be at a certain place. And if they're on another team, that's going to be very difficult. So that's about the only way you can do that now. You can't contract them. I think that's BS. I mean, the NIL individual can contract with them, but they cannot hold them to play. Nothing that they do or sign can legally tie them to playing for a certain school. I say bull to that. BS. You're signing to take a scholarship and you're signing an NIL deal? Nah. I think that any NIL deals, I think NIL deals should tie you to a school. You've got everything else has been cut free. This is your choice that they make. So you cannot give the entire farm away. And that's kind of what's happening in society today. It's everyone's trying to swing everything over into a direction, it seems like, of, this is going to sound, I don't get into politics because I'm not political, but it just seems like everybody's trying to sling everything into every different minority group. It's like, I'm sorry, people. Everybody can't be whatever. It just is what it is. And that's the same. I don't even know what point I was making. John Boy, I got rambling.
Hey, it happens to the best of us, right?
Apparently. But
we only got a few minutes left. What's a good positive way we can wrap things up today?
how was I not being positive?
No, I mean, just it's. I guess whether or not
You're getting to see my face. How's that not positive?
To end the show on a positive note, right? I'm not saying you weren't being positive already, but just saying we should. It's always a good way to end the show on a high note.
I can tell you, as I've got a lot of different screens open. I've got 3 different screens in the studio here, and one of the tabs that I have open is for Hoops Rumors and regarding NBA trade dates, deadlines to watch, et cetera, et cetera. And they have all these little square commercials in blocks in them.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way I could show you the commercial I'm looking at, but I will just describe it. It says how our liver warns us that it is overworked. Then there's a cartoonish picture of a woman from her behind and from her mid back down to right below her buttocks. And you can just see that there's a little poof escaping.
Oh, that's poof. The warning from the liver, huh?
Yes. And I'm like, what? Really? Am I really
like most
looking
liver
at that?
damage would really just be your drinking.
That was not my take on the whole thing. I was just there sitting here shocked that I'm looking at that picture. I'm like, really?
You never know what's on the internet these days, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, the good thing is tomorrow. Oh my God, we're not gonna have room to breathe tomorrow.
It's a very loaded Friday lineup.
Tell them who's on the lineup tomorrow on the dais.
We got Rick Bozich making up his time for not coming on Wednesday, but he's giving us a double dose of himself. He's going to be on for a couple of segments with us tomorrow. We'll also be joined by our friend Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. And finally, Kyler Staley, who also, because he wasn't on today, he'll be coming on with us tomorrow. So a lot of good Indiana basketball.
Yep, we'll get set up on any changes that may happen because that can happen at any time with the visits that are going on right now. You see, that's the thing. That's the huge difference. I'm going to go over.
1 minute.
Between recruiting right now and, say, recruiting freshmen. There's a little more time dragging out. Now, boom, visit, bam. Home visit, boom. You visit to the facilities, 2 days, commitment. Boom. You just saw that with Jordan Sparks. Of course, I knew that was happening. He was an Indiana kid, went to Ball State, now to Indiana. Perfect for him. But these other guys, they're going to Indiana offers a great situation because they're probably going to have a winning team and they already have NIL in place. Everything else is already there. I don't think that this is going to be tough, but they got to get the right pieces. The right pieces. And you got to get 7 of them. So when you only have to get 2, it's a lot easier. But when you have to get 7, you got to get the right 7. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Cannot thank Alec enough. As well as John, the producer, of course. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Looking forward to being back at it tomorrow. Go out and have yourselves an absolutely incredible day. For John, the producer, and everyone else, I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.